Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today is going to be my second update for my Eyeshadow Roulette project. So if you have not seen my first update, I will link that down below. But basically this is just kind of my take on applying those eyeshadows. I saw some other people on YouTube doing this project as well, so that's kind of how I got this idea. But basically instead of having to hit pan on an eyeshadow to roll it out, I randomly choose 5 shades to work on just for the month, and then each month roll in a new 5. So here are the 5 palettes that I had for the month of February. So we will go through each of the shades that I had rolled in, and then we will roll in new shades for March. So let's get right into that. So the first palette that we had rolled in was the Ulta and Harry Potter Ravenclaw palette, and we had the shade Bow Battens. So I will insert a picture of what that one looked like at the start of this project. So here is what we are looking like now. So as you can see, there is a little bit of use on this shade. I only used it 4 times. This month was pretty light for eyeshadow usage for me, but this is where we are today for this shade. I am quite happy with the progress that I made. I do really love this palette, and I'm happy that you can see a little bit of use. I knew I wasn't going to hit pan. I hadn't used this shade much before. So yeah, this is the progress on this shade. So next up we have my Wet n Wild Au Naturel palette. So I will insert a picture of what this shade looked like. And we had the 6th shade in this palette. And this is what we are looking like now. So hopefully you can see there is a little bit of pan in this shade. I am super excited about this. This shade did have a lot of good progress on it already. It's my favorite shade in this palette. So I was just really happy to get another pan in my collection. So yeah, and I only used this shade 4 times to hit pan on it. And mostly I was using it like all over the lid. So yeah, that is that shade. The next palette we have is my Profusion Mixed Metals Peach palette. And I had the 5th shade in this palette, which is the shade Certain. So once again, I will insert a picture of what that one looked like at the start. And here is what we look like now. So once again, there's not much use on the shade. I only used it twice. But you can see a little bit more disturbance in the pan, I guess. And this one, I was happy to get a little bit of use out of at least. I know this one isn't like a favorite of mine at all, so I was happy that I got at least a couple uses out of it, but I knew I wasn't going to use it that much. The next palette we have in here is my Shared Planet Tiger palette, and this one was just in for the month of January as well, and I was working on the shade Stripes. But for February, I was working on Siberian, so I will insert a picture of what that one looked like. And here is what we are looking like now. So there's going to be no visible progress on this shade. I only used it 3 times, and these shades are so tightly pressed in here that it is really hard to show any progress at all on these shades, which I'm fine with. I believe I said this in my last update with Stripes. I love this palette, and I'm okay that it doesn't show some use right now because it is somewhat newer in my collection. But I do really enjoy this palette. I didn't use it that much because I think I focused on Stripes for January and I wanted to reach for the other palettes I had in this project. But yeah, 3 uses, not great, but not too bad. And then the final palette we had in this project was my Roaring 20s Carefree palette from Rude Cosmetics, and I had the shade Dapper, so I will insert a picture of what that one looked like. And this shade had only been swatched before I rolled it into this project, so you can see there is a little bit of use now. I used this one 4 times as well. So there's just a little bit of disturbance in the pan once again. Like I said, I didn't wear eyeshadow that much this month. I usually get some more use out of my shades in this project, but it was just kind of a light month for eyeshadow, so I am happy that I got to play around with this palette though, because this is one of the newest palettes in my collection, so I am quite happy that I was able to at least get a few uses out of this shade and out of this palette. So those were the 5 shadows that I had rolled in for the month of February. Now we are going to get into rolling for March, and I do want to mention that there's going to be a slight little change. So I am still going to be randomizing the shade from each palette, but I have decided that I want to choose which 5 palettes are in each month. So I'm going to pick the palettes that I want in each month, just so I can rotate through my collection more and it's not completely randomized. But I am still going to try and do a good mix of like older palettes, newer palettes, palettes I maybe don't use as much, and some of my favorite palettes. And just so I know that I'm getting use out of all my palettes throughout the year, I wanted to choose them, but I am still going to randomize the shade from each palette. So that is what we are going to see next. So let's go ahead and get right into that. Alright, so I have my stack of palettes that I'm going to be drawing from for the month of March. So I'll just go through these really quick. We have the ColourPop and Disney It's a Princess thing, the Covergirl True Naked Peach Punch palette, Maybelline Lemonade Craze, Wet n Wild Stop Playing Safe, and the I Heart Revolution Beauty and the Beast palette. So I'm going to go ahead and randomize a shade from each of these palettes that we will be working on for March. And I have my spreadsheet pulled up next to me so I can see what shades have already been in this project. And if a shade has already been in this project or has pan on it already, we will roll again. So let's get into drawing the shades. So the first palette is this one right here from ColourPop. This is their It's a Princess Thing palette. So this has 15 shades. So in my Pretty Random app, I have 1 through 15. We will randomize and get number 7. So 5, 6, 7. So that shade has actually already been in this project. So we are going to re-roll and get number 10. So number 10 is Thingamabob right here. It is this stunning silver shade. So this is the shade we will be working on for the month of March. So our next palette is the Covergirl True Naked Peach Punch palette. And this palette is completely new to my collection. I have not yet used it. So we are going to randomize 1 through 8 and get number 4. So number 4 is this peachy corally matte shade right here. I'm super excited to start working on this palette and get some use out of it as well. So our next palette is going to be the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette, and this one has 12 shades in it. So we will randomize 1 through 12 and get number 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 is the shade Citrus down here. So it is a super pretty shimmery kind of goldy peach shade. I will include swatches of all these shades at the end just so you guys know. So here is our next palette. This is the Wet n Wild Stop Playing Safe palette. This is another new one to my collection, and I'm excited to get some use out of it. So once again, we will randomize 1 through 10 and get number 3. So 1, 2, 3 is this matte shade right here. So that's just going to be a super basic, easy matte to use, which is really exciting. It's always nice to have a staple transition shade in the lineup. And then our final palette is the I Heart Revolution Beauty and the Beast palette. So this has 18 eyeshadows over here, so we're just going to be rolling through the eyeshadows. We're not going to do the face products. So we get shade number 5. So shade number 5 is another really basic shade. This is Mrs. Potts. So this is just a matte creamish off-white shade, which will be nice to use, and get some use out of that shade and this palette in general. I'm kind of happy I got one of the easier shades because this palette isn't my absolute favorite, but I do want to get some good use out of it, so that shade will help in getting some use out of this palette. So those are the 5 shades I will be working on. I will include a picture of the swatches right now, so there you can see the color story that we're going to be working on for March. I am super excited about this. We got a pretty easy color story this month, but I'm sure I'll be able to get some good use out of these shades. Sometimes it's nice to have an easier month, you know, just to get some good use out of the shades and play around with some of the palettes in my collection that are newer. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below how you like it, how you like this color story this month. I will leave my first update link down below, and I also have a playlist for this project as well if you want to follow along that way, or if you would consider subscribing, that would be great and I would really appreciate it. And with that, I will see you all in my next video. Bye!